game, the anticipation of this has been lingering for quite some time. I'd put it around 5 years, but really haven't talked, as far as just the actual game itself. So we will talk about that as far as what we see in our opponent. All that, obviously, a storied program. Won national championship, SEC championships. We understand that it's a historic program. Got a lot of respect for Phil Fulmer. And I know he's back in the mix of things there as their athletic director. He's followed Jeremy Pruitt's coaching career for quite some time. Has worked himself up the ranks. I admire that. And I have a soft spot for what I think of coaches, guys that kind of work their way up in the high school ranks and college ranks and all that. He's accomplished a whole lot of stuff. So a lot of respect for him and what he's done. When you look at what we think they're going to do, I mean, we can sit here and guess all we want. The truth of the matter is we really don't know what they're going to do. We've watched, we're aware of all their coaches, where they've been. We've accumulated video on everything. We've watched their spring game, which really probably doesn't mean a whole lot. Watch some of their games from last year to see what their personnel's like, and big and fast and strong, and I imagine they're a little bit more motivated to play for a new coaching staff than they were towards the end of last year. So a lot of unknowns, and we're expecting them to be very multiple on offense. Don't know which quarterback they're going to go with. What they asked them to do, I would imagine, is going to be pretty similar. Whether it's number 2, the guy that they had last year, or the transfer from Stanford. So we'll look at that and kind of figure it out. They're going to have 3 or 4 backs that they're going to want to hand the ball to. A lot of tight ends, fullbacks, big experienced offensive line guys that have a lot of playing time with them. And then what I look, their receiving corps looks awful good to me, as far as what their stature is. Their production level is good. The Callaway's a really good guy, a really good kid, 6'2", 200, made a bunch of plays for him last year. The Jennings kid looks good as well. Was hurt most of last year, but 2 years ago was incredibly productive. So they got dudes on offense, and it's going to be a challenge. I'm glad we have such great continuity on defense with our coaching staff to be able to adjust to what they do. Good coaches make adjustments quick in game wins. And we're going to have to kind of get a feel for what they're doing and communicate it with our coaching staff and make adjustments on top of that. Defensively, a little more clear cut as far as what they're going to do. Obviously, Jeremy's been DC at some pretty special places over the last 5 years, going back to what they did at Florida State. It was a couple of years at Georgia, and then the last couple of years at Alabama. I've been watching a lot of Alabama video, in addition to those other places as well. So that's all we can go on. Went back and looked at their personnel from last year, and especially their front is where they got a lot of guys coming back, and they all look good. They got a bunch of big kids inside that can hold gaps, and edge guys that all look like they're 6'5" and 250 and can pin their ears and come upfield. Experienced linebacking core, experienced safety core. They got some moving parts at corner, but once again, what are they going to do? There's always questions with that, so we will got confidence in Jake and Coach Wick to communicate early on as far as what they're seeing from a front perspective and a coverage perspective, and make adjustments on top of that. Special teams, another deal where it's moving parts. Coach Pruitt's obviously probably going to have a hand in that as well, but bringing in Charles Kelly from Florida State, who took over for him as his defensive coordinator at Florida State for the last 4 years, was their special teams guy in 2013 when they won their national championship. So, you know, been back looking at that. I have a hard time looking at video from 6 years ago, but we've done our due diligence with that, and we'll try to figure out early on with what they're going to do. So it's always game one, and you know this more than others in recent past as far as how quick can we make adjustments with what they do. They're going to have to probably make a few adjustments with what we do as well. That's just what game ones are about. Take a few questions.
In game one with a new staff, as you were saying, you have to be careful not to overload the kids with every variable that could be out there.
Yeah, there's only so much time in the day. We've been restricted to 4 hours a day and 20 hours a week for the last 2.5 weeks. So that's not a whole lot of time. But we've shown them some stuff. As a coaching staff, we've probably prepared for this one more than I have in recent memory. How much you try to, you can't prepare for everything. So, game one's always about, let's worry about us as much as we possibly can, and then we need to communicate on the sidelines early in the games as far as what their plan of attack is.
The way that you're using your analysts, did you have them just break down film and give you totals, or did you actually want them trying to draw some conclusions and say, hey, here's what we think?
Yeah, it's the same thing, really. Just do all the research and put all the stuff on these scouting reports that we got. And, we've had a lot of time as coaching staff to take that information and digest it for game one. Where those guys, in my opinion, are really going to make a big difference is two things. One, getting us on to the next game quickly. So that'll really kick in Sunday. When we're here Sunday, we'll watch our game from Saturday. We'll meet, and then we got to quickly flip the switch and move on to the next one. So where in years past, I'd be up here till midnight watching previous videos trying to figure out which ones we're going to break down, and all that stuff's already going to be done. So, and then the self-scouting aspect of it as well. They'll keep a tally on what we're doing offensively and what we're doing defensively, and the kicking game as well, and try to figure out what our tendencies are before it's too late, so to speak. So, game one, coaches get bored and do stuff all summer, but moving forward, quick turnarounds are where it's probably a little more important.
And how much importance should be placed on winning the first game? I mean, obviously
Would prefer to lose it.
What actually the whole thing?
I don't even think that way, honestly. It's just and you can say, well, this one's a big game. Well, but they're all big games. And I know from a media perspective, and probably from a fan base perspective, some are more important than the others. But it's not how you approach it when it's your job and when it's your livelihood. And every game is important, and you need to try to win every one of them, regardless of the magnitude of it, where it's at, who it's against. And I just really honestly can't comment on that based on the fact it doesn't register very much.
You have a lot of familiarity with their players.
Not a ton. Some. I think we looked at the roster and there's about 10, that we actively recruited. You say, well, it looks, some of your recruiting guys that are in here can say, well, according to my notes, you guys offered 60% of their players. Well, they probably offered 60% of our players too, but only recruited 2 of them. Offering them, recruiting them are 2 different things. But we actively recruited, I think, about the same as Virginia Tech last year, for whatever reason that is.
What's your final assessment of the defense heading into the season?
Oh, I don't know. I like where they're at. You gotta play that first game before you come up with any determined factors whatsoever. You know, I think we got good leadership. You know, David Long and Draymond Henry are strong leaders. You know, and then we got some older guys that we've inserted in with grad transfers and junior college guys that bring some maturity as well. I think we're a tighter defense. You know, Gibby likes coaching these guys a lot. That gives you a chance to be successful. And now you gotta line up and play good, and stay healthy, and continue to improve as well. So, I like where we're at right now. I'm just as anxious as anybody else to go out there and see us play live. We'll get a chance to do that here in about 5 days.
Dana, when you went looking for grad transfers for the defensive line, obviously you found two better than you thought you would get, worse, about the same. How have they worked out compared to what your expectations were?
Good. Yeah, they're both listed as starters right now. I think that kind of answers that question, right? So, what I like about those two guys, and again, I haven't seen either one of those two kids play in a game. So, you know, I've got an opinion that I've reserved the right to change it once I see them this Saturday. But what I like about those guys is just they're happy kids. They're great teammates. They run around the building and they like people and talk to people, and they they're mentoring younger kids. You know, and they're showing they're leading them the right way. You know, so all that's very positive. It's made us better on defense. You know, they've both played in big games, so I think they're both going to play their tail off. Can't wait to watch it on Saturday.
Any recruiting pop from being in Carolina? They got a couple kids from there, and there's occasionally guys you go after there.
You know, a little bit. You know, it's a regret that I have. I didn't do it earlier. You know, we've been in North Carolina. We've got North Carolina guys, but we haven't really focused on North Carolina. It was probably a little bit of an oversight on my aspect of it. There's only so many places you can go. You know, and we're in a unique recruiting area where we've got to go a lot of places. But you know, we've moved into there. You know, Jake's recruiting it, Bruce Stahl's recruiting it. We have presence. Typically, it typically takes a few years. You know, I see our recruiting presence in Georgia. One, Doug Belk's done a good job, but you're recruiting guys right now to play in that opener against Florida State, which is about 2 years from now, 2 or 3, something like that. But you're recruiting guys now to play in that game. So that's one of my regrets, which obviously everybody has regrets on everything. But if we could have sold this game to Charlotte kids 3 years ago, it probably would have made a little bit bigger impact. With that said, you know, there's a lot of interest in West Virginia. I'm thrilled about our fan base being able to take part in this. 32,000 alumni, WVU alumni, are in the greater Charlotte area. I mean, I've been down there a bunch. Developed a lot of friendships down there. I've met a ton of West Virginia people. It's big. It's a big weekend for West Virginia University and West Virginia in general in Charlotte. So the interest will continue to grow, and I just think we're getting started
The biggest unknowns in an opener from there for Tennessee, is it tougher for offensive adjustments or defensive adjustments for you guys?
I think it's the same based on our continuity. You know, we've been together for 5 years on defense now. You know, it's year 2 with Jake, but obviously it goes back farther than that. You know, but the O-line is in a better place because it's year 2 with Wick. But from a coaching staff perspective, I mean, you know, myself and Jake and Wick and Gerber's been around here for 3 years now, and carrier. Obviously, that goes back a long ways. So the continuity there is pretty good. So I don't think it's really based on the situation. I don't think it's one more than the other.
With there are unknowns you mentioned, but you rattled off a bunch of stuff on your side that you're interested in seeing or kind of believe it when you see it. Are there certain things in your specialty, certain positions, certain people that you'd like to see what happens when the actual game starts versus what you think may happen?
Yeah, I'm anxious to see it with Will. If I'm anxious to see it with him, I'm probably anxious to see it with everybody. But there's things that even veteran guys, whether it's individual performance or how they coach on the sidelines or the feedback we're getting from them in the box, or what the new schemes actually look like, or the camaraderie and gelling of the specific units. I mean, I'm anxious to see all of it. I can't say it's really more, in one phase or one player than any of the other ones. I'm anxious to see all of it.
And you must, you obviously see parallels between your career and his, the way you came up through the ranks in life. Kind of two parts. First of all, the head coaching experience you have gives you what kind of advantage having the years making the decisions and doing the sideline. And the second thing, does it change anything in approach other than the fact that you grew up as an offensive guy and he grew up as a defensive guy going football?
Yeah, I don't think that, what side you're on, I don't think that really matters. There's nothing more valuable than on-the-job training when it comes to head coaches. I believe in that. I think Jeremy's a fantastic football coach, and I'm only going to comment on my experiences. There's things that I learned from that first game. There's things that I learned from last year's first game, being in a little bit different role. So I don't know, that young kid in Oklahoma adjusted pretty quickly.
Sometimes it matters what players you have.
It matters quite a bit, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm anxious for this game one. I think I'm anxious to see if I've improved as far as, and not just like in-game decisions, but just like the whole, managing the game and sideline presence and adjusting to new rules. I'm anxious to evaluate me. So, but I do believe that there's no greater lesson learned than just on the job training.
These openers have to be, I guess, this week. You have a different game next week, right? You like it that way, where it's up here, up here?
I don't view it that way.
Not even like in the tune-up or understanding.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in tune-ups. Hell, we play 11 Power 5 schools. I don't believe in taking any games off. But we don't approach it that way. It's just, it's you just can't, because if you do anything differently, then players and coaches they're gonna recognize that. And if you send any message like that, then that's how you get your budget. I don't care who you play.
Josh Hills, wide-eyed last year, rotating in against Vatek to being a go-to guy at left guard this year.
Yeah, if you're counting on anybody that young, then they got a chance to be a decent player. Colton was that guy, Godney was that guy, Josh was that guy last year. So Colton was much better year two, Godney was much better. So we're expecting Josh to be better as well. Redshirt freshman O-lineman, it's just rare that they play. He was big enough and physical enough to be able to do that last year. The mentality aspect of it is what he struggled with all year. I think he's past that. I hope he's past that.
Like mentality of seeing things or mentality of
Everything. Everything. It's the game of football. Just from holding up physically to preparation to understanding the calls, to the mental aspect of it in game, handling combat. Just the list goes on and on. And when you're older, it's just a lot easier.
Danny, you have several JUCOs that are going to be playing in their first game at this level. Are they as wide-eyed as a freshman, or are they a veteran? How do you view their personality?
It could be all of the above. I think it's like 30% of our 72 travel kids that will be taken that have not traveled. That's why my game was important last week, and we showed them how it's going to be. The mock game was just like it is. It's a fake game, but they saw how things flowed, so that should give them a little bit of comfort as far as how things are going to be. But there's nothing like on the job training. So I hope with the JUCO kids, they're a little bit older. I have played in some bigger games, but nothing like this. So we'll keep our eye on all these young guys and see how they're handling things.
I know you're reluctant about talking about guys who haven't played yet. T.J. Simmons, another big camp, I guess.
Yeah, he's in the rotation. We'll obviously we'll play. He's played in these games. He did that as a true freshman for Alabama. So I would expect him to handle this very easily and play a lot of snaps for us.
He get any work on special teams?
He does. He'll be on a couple of them. He'll be on punt return and kickoff return. If you're a starter, you're probably going to be on one. Rare occasion two. But if you're a pretty quality backup, then you should expect to be on 2 to 4. He's done a good job of that. He's physical. He brings some physicality to that receiving core, which is what I feel like they need.
Are you hopeful that he can maybe match what Ron gave you last year?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. Marcus Sims has had a really good camp. So we'll move David around a little bit like we always have, and he can handle all that. I'm anxious to watch TJ. I know what Marcus can do. I'm anxious to watch TJ, and that kind of will dictate where we're going with David at times as well.
And you brought a lot of transfers in here from different types of schools. Is there a difference? Well, what is the difference between kids you might get from Alabama, Clemson, UCLA prime programs as compared to some kids who transferred who aren't big time?
We've turned down plenty of kids that have played at those programs, high-profile programs, I guess is what you're saying. But my biggest thing is figure out why they want to transfer and if you have a need for that. But we've had success with it. And, Giovanni Haskins coming from Miami is going to see playing time. Jack Allison's our backup. Hopefully he either does or doesn't see playing time. Obviously Will coming in from Florida. Kenny, USC, Brill, Clemson. Those are all good programs. They were highly recruited guys out of high school. There's been a lot of others that we haven't taken because we didn't like their reasoning for transferring. So I was comfortable with each of those guys on their reasoning for transferring, and that's why we took them. And I think that's why they're all. In position to be able to help us and have success.
I think you referred to it as the order game on the depth chart.
I think Tony put those words in my mouth. I point that. I heard somebody told me that the Tennessee people were mad at me because I said that. I put that on Tony.
I'll take it.
I mean, they could have put ore on every single one of them, and it wouldn't have changed my outlook on looking at that depth chart. Isn't that what I've said to y'all basically from the first day I got here? You can have this depth chart if you want to, but you might as well just assume there's an ore everywhere, because that's a constant work in progress. So that was not unexpected whatsoever, and it didn't make me look at that depth chart any
It doesn't affect, has it ever?
bit. It affects nothing.
That's what
It absolutely affects us.
So to follow up, who's starting running back
Yeah, I don't know yet. We got a week of practice. Honestly, I mean that's a couple of the ores that I put on there were really honestly in fairness to our players that are actually competing for those jobs. And if I'm Coach Pruitt, I'm probably answering that and believing the same thing. They probably got a lot of position battles going on that they're still trying to figure out who's starting. That bothers y'all way more than it bothers me.
for you? Thanks, Coach.
All right.